everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. You are chopping it up with Chuck, and we are very excited today to have Mike Wright. He is the operations manager for Blue Room Enterprises, aka Blu Gro House Technology. Did I get that right, Mike?
Yes, indeed, or Blu Gro Systems, yes.
Okay, Blu Gro Systems. Well, anyways, we're very excited to talk to you, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So we met actually at a media event in LA, and I was really excited to find out what you guys are doing over there, especially because you bribed all the media people there with some absolutely fantastic coffee. And not to put the cart before the horse, but you guys are using this technology to make this incredible coffee, but it also has applications for cannabis, right?
Absolutely, because it actually works all across agricultural products.
Beautiful. That's what we were going for right here. Can you tell the audience just a little bit about kind of your background and your experience prior to finding yourself smack dab in the middle of all this high-speed technology that is applicable for not only coffee, but growing everything, including cannabis?
Sure. When I went to college back in the late 70s, early 80s, when quantum physics was seeping into every discipline and every philosophy, and any undergrad who wanted to customize their own track could, weave in a physics component to it, and I ended up doing that. And so my sponsor would search all these ancient legendary texts that used to be considered myth and fable, and his whole premise was, what if these were the scientists of their day? And he used all of that literature to propose grant funding. So I got the idea early on about multidiscipline and thinking broad instead of specializing. Jump forward to after getting out of the military, I moved up to the Pacific Northwest, bought 5 acres of land. I was a back to the lander, my wife and I, just to sort of reframe our lives and take a look after our adventures in capitalism and our adventures in the military. And I grew potatoes. I was an organic gardener. I ended up managing a gardening store, and I got exposed to Rachel Carson's, Silent Spring, Secret Life of Plants, Secret Life of the Soil, and all these other somewhat metaphysical approaches to agriculture and growing, but really rooted in what I had learned in quantum physics about the subtler effects that are not based on the Darwin and not based on Newton's view of physics and just nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium is all a plant needs. So 30 years later, here I am in developing this kind of technology that helps any plant and any community build a richer environment.
Did you find that this was kind of almost like a spiritual type journey or an evolution for you besides just the science?
It certainly was. I was a seeker from the age of 10 when I got beat up on the playground. And I said, there's got to be more to life than this. And my dad took me to a judo class. So instead of a classic Chicago suburbs playing football kid, I ended up going to judo class and learning all about the Oriental cultures and the Oriental perspective of energy and resonance and avoiding direct conflict by not finding a polar opposite, but finding a relationship that's collegial or collaborative. And that led me eventually to become a student of a number of spiritual methodologies, a number of different philosophies. And eventually I found Jay-Z Knight, who was the channel for Ramtha, and joined that training program. And still to this day, I'm a part of that program as well. And it was Jay-Z Knight that invented the core technology that Blue Room Enterprises develops in all the different areas.
Who is that? Jay-Z Knight?
Jay-Z Knight. She's the inventor. She's the one that got the patent on this. She had been tested back in the mid 80s by a group of scholars mid 90s, a group of scholars that said, yeah, we don't know what she does, but she's clearly not faking it, and she's not a split personality. She's accessing other levels of reality. And so it's a metaphysical journey in and of itself, but she has the ability to leave her body and experience all these other realms that we're swimming in, even though we may not be aware of them, and bring back that knowledge. And that's how the blue technology sort of came into physical being.
Wow. I have a feeling this is going to be an interesting podcast here. And we are chatting with Mike Wright, and he is going to talk to us now about Blue Room LLC, or Blu Gro Technology. And let's talk about specifically what is going on in this Blue Room, Mike.
Okay. The original piece of equipment was an octagon structure with a couch in the center. The inner walls were lined with stainless steel, highly polished mirrors, ultraviolet B lamps, and blue LEDs. There's also music and acoustic tones that create an entire atmosphere around the couch for the individual there. And it was used in spa. It's been used for the last 5 years in spa wellness settings and in medical clinical settings to attend to not just simply a physical health issue, but for the individual, the being, the spiritual, soulful, emotional being, and their journey, and to give them a new perspective and to give them a mental reset and a break from the pain and the toil of the physical condition. And over those 5 years, we've expanded to 12 countries. We've got 40 different services active right now in a variety of settings. And then the next area that we began to look at and have rolled out this past summer is applying the same technology to agriculture. And so we created the Blu Gro House, which is about 1,000 square feet. It too is an octagon shape. It's 11 feet tall. And it can come with all the bells and whistles of automated control for environment, or it can be stripped down to the basics depending on what the farmer or the agricultural facility wants. So that structure, the physical structure, creates an environment that is a rich environment. The shape provides a resonance cavity based on the physics of the vibration and the synchronicity of structures. That is perhaps not as conventional as Newtonian physics, but it's still at the level of the deeper understandings of quantum and maybe other metaphysical methodologies, does have a component. And one of the things that I like to talk about when somebody wants to get beyond just the hard physics is that most greenhouse structures is basically, it's a box, it's a cube. And in nature, you just don't see that shape very often. The other thing that is rare for a greenhouse structure is to have birds inside, whereas out in nature, at least prior to 1964 and Rachel Carson's classic, we had a rich environment of birds, bird song, and other activities that created that resonance, that created that vibration, that interacted with the plant community. And so our technology reproduces that with the structure resonance as well as the music and the acoustics.
Hey, Mike, what's the, in case people are listening and they want to maybe take a look at it, because I think this is a pretty awesome thing for people to be able to see. What's a website URL where they can see the, the actual grow house?
Sure. Bluroom.com, BLUROOM.com is our main page. And there's a link to the Blu Gro System site in the upper right-hand corner on that main page. Or if somebody wants to do a lot more typing, BluGroSystems.com, which is BLUGROSYSTEM.com. So we don't use the E in blue and we don't use the W in grow.
There you go. You're saving money on if you have to pay per
letter.
Yeah, right. I like this, like a greenhouse, but better. For the people that are listening to this is really what we're talking about, right? Like it's kind of like a whole nother level of a greenhouse.
It is indeed. And another aspect that we incorporate into the technology is the UVB component and the visible blue component,
Yeah.
which again, in nature, over the last 100,000 years or so, as plants have developed and humans have developed in their communities, was adequate from the sun. But in the last 150 years, with the advancing of industrial technology, we've altered the atmosphere. And it's visible in the spectral analysis. You can see the changes, particularly the diminishment at the blue end of the spectrum and the reduction of UV and blue that reaches the Earth's surface because blue and ultraviolet scatter more easily coming through the atmosphere.
Wow. So you're basically recreating the environment or recreating that UV spectrum that used to be available to plants before, but it's changed through, through time and stuff like that. And you're basically kind of taking it back to where the plants can get that full spectrum?
Yeah. So between the spectrum and the acoustics, you reach an environment that is more supportive, more beneficial to the plant at the genetic level, because it was historically an environment that it flourished in. And when modern agricultural technology post-World War II basically stripped down a plant to, its ash characteristics and said, well, all we need is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in just enough quantities to, get the plant to do what we want it to do, it became a factory farming operation. Which does create the product, but it doesn't create the kind of nutrition and the rich flavor spectrum and nutritional value that historically we came to in small farms and in the pre-industrial eras that our bodies depended upon for their health and nutrition.
Wow. So is there actually... I'm just curious about this. So the frequency, are there studies that show how these frequencies affect the plants, increase yields and stuff?
There are studies that show, for example, the leaves of certain plants responding to music. The stomata will open up on certain frequencies, certain tones, certain types of music. So they'll take in atmospheric or foliar nutrients more easily, more readily, and therefore they aren't starved. They're stockier. They produce richer. But more interesting for me, I found, is the studies that we've been focusing on is the soil microbe community, because everybody at first is looking at the plant. What's the plant do? But right. If you look at the soil first, you see changes in the soil environment inside our grow structure that you don't see in conventional greenhouses and you don't see in conventional outdoor soil samples. So you see a much richer diversity of living microbacteria, mycorrhizae, the gram-positive, the gram-negative. So even at a technical level of soil analysis, we see a change inside the Blu Gro environment, responding in the microbe community and therefore in the root structure interaction for the plant.
I would imagine that it's probably a lot more important what's going on under the soil than above the soil. Is that safe to say?
Well, it certainly is it's much easier to create a healthy soil environment, a rich, diverse soil community, and put your seedlings into that, or your seeds starts into that, because then the plant itself and the plant community has a much more, that is their main environment. We tend to look at what's happening above the soil because we can see that. Mm-hmm. And it takes effort to, get your fingers dirty and learn to smell a rich soil that the eyes may or may not discern what's a good soil and what's a, less beneficial soil. But the nose will discern it, and you may be able to tell the difference between, rich chocolate cake and an environment in the soil that is more conducive to maximizing the genetic potential of the plant.
Okay, so I'll tell you what. Let's take a brief break here, and we are going to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, and then we'll be right back, and we're going to dive in and find out more about what is Blue Room LLC, Blu Gro Technology, and start talking specifically about some of the science that you are applying and some of the other kind of techniques that you're doing here to really produce the best quality plants in the world.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. Today's episode is brought to you by Ulabo US. Temperature control plays a vital role in cannabis extraction workflow. Attention to detail and optimization of processing conditions from extraction to component isolation remain critical to maximizing yield and purity. Ulabo US has the scientific equipment you need to accurately and easily control temperature during cannabis processing and post-processing. Ulabo US products provide heating and cooling power for rotary vaporators, closed-loop systems, extractions, distillations, decarboxylation, winterization, and more. Visit Ulabo US to learn more. That's www.julabo.us to learn more.
Okay, everybody, we're back. Welcome back to Cannabis Tech Talks. You're chopping it up with Chuck, and we are here with Mike Wright, and we are talking about Blu Gro System. Okay, so help me understand. You also say on your website here, no fertilization, no need for any fertilizers. So let me ask you this: if the light, the spectrum of the lights, and you've got the the frequency, you've got everything that's going on to make this basically a next level grow house, greenhouse. Why wouldn't fertilizer, like if you just take everything else that you guys have done and it's all, tip top, scientific, spiritual, everything like that, why wouldn't that fertilizer just help a little bit more? How come you guys don't, no need for any fertilizers?
Well, this is an interesting subtlety because the soil actually has a rich chemical resource available, but it's all locked up in inorganic form. And so there's plenty of nutrients already in most soils that, because conventional farming, conventional agriculture doesn't consider soil to be what they're growing, that doesn't consider the microbe community to be their unpaid labor, they think that they have to add more basic nutrients, more nitrogen, pounds per acre, more phosphorus because it's leached out from the winter rains, more potassium because the potassium's locked up, but it's all actually still in the soil. And so we end up in conventional agricultural putting more additions in, spending more money, putting more stuff on top and scratching it in, but it's so intense that the roots actually have to, work around what we're putting in because the roots don't have the soil community, they don't have the mycorrhizae, they don't have the actinomycetes that are the interface that digest or pre-digest and take the inorganic material into an organic state that the root fibers can then take up and feed on. It would be like us eating bricks instead of eating burgers. And, too many bricks and you can't get out of your driveway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. So what made you want to take this approach and this technology and everything like that into the cannabis industry?
Washington State was one of the first states in the U.S. to pass the cannabis laws. And so I've been able to watch what's going on here in the regulatory environment and see the parallels from, the early prohibition days of the 20s and 30s and how that alcohol was brought back into the legal side of commerce. And to be a part of that journey sort of resurfaced our interest in what we could contribute to the cannabis industry that wouldn't require more, conventional agricultural approaches. And I understand, just like in any other agricultural industry, where you want, as a grower or a processor, to be able to distinguish your basic product from the competition. And so we started with coffee and some other agricultural products that Dr. Matt had available to him through contracts down in Ecuador, coffee in Hawaii. And we sent those out and they were very well received. Our coffee farmers took gold and silver medals at the Paris Cupping competition in 18 and 19. And so we knew just from our prototype testing that our approach to agriculture was making a difference at the taste side as well as the nutrition side, at the end user part, that could allow somebody to distinguish their product from your run-of-the-mill product.
So you had an aha moment where you were like, okay, you know what? If this is going to work for, coffee, and this is going to work for other things, this could produce some of the best cannabis, and then it was just kind of go from there.
Yeah, because cannabis is really at the start of its launch. Mm-hmm. As crazy as it's been for the last decade, it's still early in terms of what does the consumer demand ultimately balance out at, because ultimately it's a consumer product now. And so the grower and the processor are going to want a consistent experience for their buyer, their end user. And to be able to brand that and identify that gives the grower and the processor a guaranteed market. Once they identify, what their niche is, they've got a solid demand market that supports that feedback mechanism, that community of growers, processors, and end users.
Wow. So, and then that creates a ultra premium product. Yeah.
Or at the very least, it creates a stable relationship between the grower, the processor, and the end user. And sure, there may be, distributors and middle entities involved and retailers, as opposed to, say, consumer-based community agriculture. But we've seen this pattern before. And as early as cannabis is in becoming a consumer industry, this is a great time for us to be able to offer the technology for those that are interested in distinguishing their brand with something that is not going to be easily replicated by competitors.
I like that. What kind of, how can people in the cannabis industry, if they're interested in this technology, how can they get involved? How could they try it out? And then most importantly, what can they expect by utilizing this kind of this system that you guys have developed?
Well, the easiest way to get involved is by way of the website and just, sending a contact email, a query for more detailed information, to get connected with Matt Martinez, who's the co-developer and our lead on the agricultural side. We can set up a call just to find out what the level of interest is. One of the challenges is somebody's going to ask us in advance, well, how much before I invest, what am I going to get in return? And we're early in this technology. We've got, comparison growths. We're doing, you get more leaf, you get more bud, you get sooner market cycle or shorter market cycle from seed to product. And we don't have 5 years of research on this to say, oh, well, here's all the studies. We're 6 months into this, maybe a year. Our folks out in Hawaii are doing some cannabis testing right now with starts that are inside our grow house and starts that are inside their conventional grow structure. And they're seeing stockier, plants. They're seeing earlier leafing and fruiting, but we don't really have the long-term research that somebody who is, well established is waiting for a write-up that says, well, here's all the third-party research. In fact, if somebody wants to get involved, one way that a grower might want to get involved is to send some samples to our folks in Hilo and say, here's some of my seeds, or try and send me back what you get from this. Let me compare to what I'm doing. So we're still looking for people that would help us establish the growth cycle rates and reproduce what we're doing, so that it's not just us, because obviously we have an interest in our own product and selling the structure and the technology. So you can't 100% rely on what we say about our own work. We want a few other people that are involved to say, oh yeah, I tried it and I saw the difference. That's why we presented the coffee at the media event. It's like, here, try it. If you like it, give us a call. And all of this technology has a subjective component to it, because it's not classical physics and it's not post-World War II agriculture. There's a psychological component to it. It's psychophysical. And I think the folks in the cannabis industry understand that at a deeper level than other agricultural segments, because they're coming out into commerce where they've been in the underground, and you basically have to rely on your own experience and your own spider senses to tell you what's the way to navigate.
Yeah, so you guys are looking for, all types of collaboration right now. You seem like you're really open to different kind of ways that we can really get deeper into this technology and see what we've really got going.
Yeah, because ultimately I could say that yes, is a shorter cycle to market from the day you plant your seeds to the day that you sell it off. And I could say, yes, it's got this much CBD oil and this much THC and, a lot of physical stats. But it's going to come down to, how does it taste? What's the response on the user? That's what we want to hear from. Can you tell a difference like the guys at the coffee cupping competition in Paris? When you can go to a world championship and you're up against the pros and the judge says, I don't have words for this. I like it, but I can't tell you why. Then, you're onto something. And, maybe next year they'll have a new verb or a new adverb or a new adjective for what's the UVB infused effect.
I can testify right now. My right hand is in the air, and I'm telling you right now, that coffee that you gave us, that award-winning coffee that was grown using this technology, is absolutely, it's fabulous. And when I grind it up, throw it in the coffee pot, and make some of it, the oils, just the smell, everything like that it's a really, really great experience. So that was really smart of you guys to get that in our hands and let us kind of, have a little bit of a sample, and hopefully it's going to work just as well for the, other products that you're growing.
Amen, brother.
Yeah. No, but it is absolutely, it's really, really good coffee. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to kind of, let our audience know that maybe we haven't covered here regarding what you guys got going on over there and the technologies and what you're looking to accomplish?
I think maybe the broadest idea is that agriculture is not just a physical process. There's an emotional component to it. There's a mental component to it. There's a spiritual, soulful component to it. And when we, as growers, processors, or handlers of a product that ultimately is going to be experienced by an end user, when we understand that every attitude that we have, that everything that we touch is influenced by our mindset, and the more that we can have a larger, holistic mindset about what we're offering, we maximize the opportunity, we maximize the community, we maximize the genetic potential of the plant or of the animal or of our fellow human beings, because we're offering to them what we see as a greater potential than what's come before us.
Yeah, and I can't say enough about the fact that in the industry that that we're in right now, that a lot of our listeners are in cannabis, in hemp, it is such it feels like a real social and almost kind of a spiritual type relationship with the plant, with the herb, with the products that come from it. So it seems like the perfect type of environment for this to all kind of come together.
Absolutely. And the Blue Room, the original technology, actually was the first unit that the Buddhist Cup Sanctuary installed, and they bought it for their employee wellness program. That's how this all got started. Is they said, well, that sounds good. We want our employees to have that mind state before they go out into the fields or they go to their greenhouse. And then they thought, wonder what would happen if we put our beans in here. So it just, the unknowns, the possibilities are never worse than what we've already experienced. There's a lot greater future ahead of us.
Well, and it makes sense too, because people are connoisseurs of coffee, right? People have a relationship. I mean, God, let's be real. People have a relationship with coffee, probably like similar that a lot of people have with cannabis,
Absolutely.
and so that's, I think that's really, really cool. So if somebody goes out to Hawaii, can they arrange where they could come by and check out the operation?
Absolutely. Let me give you my email address.
Okay.
It's Mike W. That's MIKEW at Blu Room, BLUROOM.com. And I would be happy to connect anybody with our grower and supplier at Buddha's Cup and arrange for a tour and a visit. We'll pop you into the Blue Room so you can experience that. We'll get you some coffee, and you can tour the Blue Grow Houses as well.
Dude, that sounds really awesome. Well, we really appreciate you being on with us today. It was a pleasure meeting you in person, and I hope some people take the time to reach out, and hopefully we get some collaborations and just continue to drive the industry forward, especially here where we're applying science and technology and a little bit of spirituality into this industry that everybody loves and cares about so much. So thank you very much for being on with us, Mike. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you to your team as well. I look forward to hearing from some of your listeners. And, for me, it's photosynthesis for the soul.
Absolutely. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much for joining us this time. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you like and you share with your friends, and make sure that you subscribe so that you can listen to all the upcoming episodes of Cannabis Tech Talks, where we will be chopping it up with some of the most innovative brands and people here in the industry. And we really appreciate you guys listening. And don't forget to follow us on social media so you can stay in the conversation, and visit our website, cannatechtoday.com.